connection to this land, and I pay my respects to elders past, present, and I extend that respect to any Aboriginal people present here today. Recognition of servicemen and women. The Council acknowledges the sacrifice made by Australian servicemen and women, in particular those who gave their lives in the defence of the freedom we enjoy today. Thank you very much, everyone. You may be seated. Disclosure of interest. Just a reminder that councillors are reminded of their obligation to declare their interest in any matters listed before them. In considering your interest, you are reminded to include pecuniary, significant non-pecuniary and non-significant and significant non-pecuniary conflicts of interest, as well as any other interests you perceive or may be perceived of you. Councillors may declare an interest at the commencement of the meeting or alternatively at any time during the meeting should the issue progress or arise that should warrant a declaration. Councillors must state their reasons in declaring any type of interest. Attendance via audio-visual link. We've got no applications today, councillors. Apologies and granting of leave of absences. I believe that we've got two.
Yes, I'd like to move that Councillor Browning be excused from the meeting. He's at work today.
Thank you very much.
Unavoidably detained.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Also, Kathy Redding has asked for a leave of absence as well. Does someone want to move that as well for Kathy? Thank you. We've got John and Councillor Baum. Thank you very much. I would do it as one motion if everyone, you're happy to move it as a motion, seconded by John. Thank you very much. Councillor Clements, all those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you very much. Yes, in a moment. Yes, in a moment. Yes. In fact, right now. I'm going to declare something myself. Sorry? Sorry. We're going too fast, everyone.
Don't worry, we'll slow down. Enthusiasm will wear off.
Work commitments, I think. Yes. Okay. I'm going to declare a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in item 14.2. It's the naming of a public asset, the naming of a picnic chair. I'm naming that because I'm a Rotary member and a Rotary board member, but there's no beneficial or financial interest in any way for me or Rotary, so I am declaring it, but I will remain in the room for that. John, did you have...
Yeah, look, 13.9,
yes.
Current community advocacy opportunities. In my employment, I work for the local member who is a member of one of those committees and the chair of another of those committees. In terms of parliamentary staff, I'm actually not involved in those committees, but I just say to people that that's a thing. I don't propose to leave the meeting because my work actually doesn't involve those committees, but I'm just saying to people who may be aware that there is a linkage there.
So you put that on a form or something, or yeah, you've got a form. Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Any other declarations at all? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next agenda item, which is items to be considered in confidential public excluded meeting. We've got two agenda items there. Let's grab that for a second. The two items there is we've got the the business paper and unconfirmed minutes of the ARIC committee, which is the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee of Council. We've also got an item there which is the National Volunteer Week, and we've got Volunteer of the Year nominations. So there's a number of nominations that have come through, and it's just ratifying the final decision on that particular item. So those two items will be considered in the publicly excluded part of the meeting. We've got no presentations today, anyone. I'd like to move on to 19 if we can. 9.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
can I ask a question? Why Mr. Hatton wasn't asked to speak as the agenda says now?
So presentations usually are. I can get clarity from Jason about that, but I believe that presentations are usually on specific agenda items and it's usually at the request of council. So it's a kind of a different. So yeah, if people are presenting off their own bat and they put an application in, it goes before the council meeting. It's the first thing we look at before we move into a formal council meeting.
Yeah, that was it. It was just an error that it got put in the draft minutes.
Yep. So confirmation of minutes. Do I have a mover for confirmation minutes? Councillor Clements, Councillor Richardson. Thank you very much for that. Do you wish to speak to your?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. No. Okay. Well, all those in favour, all those against, it's carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Matters of great urgency. Nothing's come through as a matter of great urgency at this stage. Questions with notice. We've got nil reports at this stage either. We now move on to my favourite part, which is the mayoral minute. Sorry, Councillor Richardson.
Sorry, just a query. Mr. Hatton's request, I'm sure all councillors are on the same line. We would like a report. Can that go in matters of great urgency?
No, it's something that we'll consider in the infrastructure section. We'll ask Eloise.
Even though that specific item's not there?
I'll foreshadow that it's general that the person who moves the infrastructure report, for instance, gets to have a little bit of a talk and matters are raised. Yep. I'll foreshadow that I think we should deal with it there, and
we can discuss it.
That'll facilitate. That's what we're after.
Yes. I might call upon our legal eagle.
This is probably a good opportunity just to emphasise that the recommendation from a report doesn't have to be the motion. So when a report comes up and a councillor moves it, and Councillor Clements I think is all over this, is that assuming Councillor Clements is the one that moves this motion when it comes up, you could add something to that motion when you move it. So yeah, you're not limited to the recommendation as whatever motion you move arising from it.
Yep, great. Thank you very much. Okay, the mayoral minute, which is it's been another few. It's been another fairly busy month, I have to say. We had the Senior of the Year events. We had a number of events that I was involved in and headed to. A number of councillors attended with those events, and certainly full of almost daily meetings and different items. But overall, I think it was quite a productive month, and I certainly had my work cut out for me this particular week. Do any councillors wish to speak or ask me any questions about the week? Councillor Clements.
19th of March, you accepted an invitation from the Deputy Principal of Narrabri High School to discuss possible solutions to future planning of schools delivery. Can we get a bit more information on that? I think that's something that we're all very keen to see progress.
So there was actually a round table held, and it was organised by the Deputy Principal, Emily McInerney, who's very, very passionate advocate for improvement of educational outcomes in Narrabri. There were representatives from TAFE New South Wales, TAFE Queensland was in the room. We had representatives from various registered training organisations. We had teachers. We had people from different employer groups. We had the employment agencies all in a round forum, and it was certainly an excellent discussion point. And I know that the high school's moving at a rate of knots to try and improve educational outcomes, and also to try and get a greater uptake of traineeships, apprenticeships by local young people in this area. I went into the room and I was actually just quite impressed with the level of discussion, the kind of high level of discussion. There was a lot of consternation about funding for the local TAFE and lack of opportunities. There was a lot of people in the room who realised that there was, there aren't the same level of opportunities to do apprenticeships in Narrabri as there used to be through our particular local TAFE campus. And I think a lot of business owners would be nodding if they, at that particular comment. But there was a sense that there is movement afoot, that there is more support going into local TAFE, but also to try and accommodate new flexible learning approaches, so that kids who are, at the end of year 9 and year 10 that really do not necessarily want to go straight into year 11 and year 12, that have some options, particularly around some of the technical trades, and also gaining experience with local businesses. But it was worthwhile, and I got a phone call from her a couple of days ago again as well, just to kind of see if I'm interested in continuing on the conversation with a whole lot of others. And I've said, I'm very, very enthusiastic. I think supporting our local public education across this shire is very, very important. Councillor Bong.
Thank you for that summary. Further to that, is there any regional issues involved that would be followed through as well? Are these regional or are they parochial issues?
No, I think there's definitely regional issues. I think it's been something that's been happening over the last umpteen years, where there's been a little bit of a hollowing out of the TAFE system, and there's also been some real issues around various public schools, etc. And discipline, etc. is always an issue that seems to raise its head. But we had some representatives from the Education Department from Inverell, I recall, and they're having exactly the same kind of problems: absenteeism, issues of suspension, issues of lack of engagement. Some of it they blame on because of the the fallout of COVID, and I kind of get that. But but I think there's a lot more to it than just simply COVID. There's some serious investment that we've got to do in this sector, and not just throwing money in it, but also throwing time and really thinking about how we're going to deliver on the ground for businesses and for our local communities, to make sure that we've got the right kind of people delivering the right kind of young people for our future needs. We are short of trades, we're short of apprentices, we're short of a lot of things. So it's very, very important that we, right across regional New South Wales, that's the case.
Just one of those little snippets.
Yep.
There's a lot in what you just said. There is a program which has been piloted for a suspension diversion program. So instead of being suspended, you don't get to leave the building. And it's a great program.
Yeah, right.
So we're actually, with my day hat on, we're actually trying to get that funded properly, and I'll provide some contacts.
I'd like that.
I think it would be a great presentation if they were willing to come here to talk about their program and the fact they're running 2 pilots, very successful. Don't let them go out in the street, because that's
rewarding them.
What's rewarding them, exactly. I do have a question, perhaps a comment.
I'm glad you have a question.
Well, at a Memorial Hall committee, I'm somewhat at odds with the advice we provide. There is no doubt in my mind that the Hall Committee own that hall. They have title in New South Wales. The Commonwealth also hold title. That would appear to be a folio error, not transferred. The proof of that and the problem, which I think you need to be mindful of, is that quite simply there is a registered mortgage against the Hall Committee, and you're not going to be able to get the Commonwealth to pretend they own it because there is a standing registered mortgage against that Hall Committee on their title.
Yep.
So.
No worries. So just to give everyone a bit of an update, we met with Crown Lands and we met with the Hall Committee, the President, Secretary and a number of others raised exactly the issue that you just said, Councillor Clements, and they are fairly certain they've been dealing directly with finance, the Commonwealth Department of Finance, and moves are afoot to transfer it for I think $1 to transfer it across. I believe that it's the Hall Committee are very happy with that, as it does exactly what they would like. It provides certainty. It means it belongs to the state, and they can be covered in insurance, which is exactly what they want. They don't.
Look, I think that's a great outcome, but there is a registered mortgage undischarged against the title held by the Balata Hall Committee. Okay? So when somebody does a search, they're going to come up with an undischarged mortgage against the title that they already hold.
That search has been done. So it's all been done. So we actually got the actual.
Okay. Perhaps you need to talk to the GM. There is an undischarged mortgage against the title held by the Balata Hall Committee, and you need to have a look at it.
Yep.
I'll say no.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Any other questions or comments? If that being the case, I will move that the minutes are confirmed. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Move on to our first item of business, councillors, which is, of course, the investment report, which is item 13.1, the investment report for March 2024. I'll call upon our Director just to briefly give us just a bit of a top line around the investment report, if you wouldn't mind, just briefly.
Yes, Mayor. Through the GM and to councillors, the investment report for March 2024, headline graph, actual interest earned versus the budget. We're identifying $2.467 million in interest income to the period to 31 March, which is in excess of where we budgeted for that time. The budget figure was less than about $1.7 million. We will, of course, catch that up in the March QBR moving forward in the next month. But all things are looking very positive from an investment perspective.
Thank you very much. Do I have a mover for the motion? Councillor Bowen?
I do, and I foreshadow a slight amendment, if I might.
Okay. Councillor, would you like to speak to your motion, please?
Thank you, Director, for your report.
Oh, is there a seconder? Very good
I'll
point.
second that.
Councillor Clements, thank you. Thanks. You're unsure?
Again, I'm objecting to the use of the word note. We really must take an action when we have a motion. We can't just note something. So I think we either endorse it or we receive and endorse, or we actually have to there has to be an action. A motion has to be an action. Then my learned friend will suggest that I'm not incorrect on that.
It's a fairly standard practice across councils, New South Wales, to do this, but I'm not sure whether it's what word would you rather use?
Well, I'm being a pedant, but we can't. I don't think we should use the language of note. We actually have to take an action. So, what is the action that the director would like to take? Do we receive and endorse?
Receive it.
Yes, but it's simply a matter of
Acknowledge.
No, that's not an action.
Receive it. Receive it.
I look to the mayor to suggest it, or to the director. Well, I would use the word endorse.
issue about endorsement, I'm just throwing it out there, it's much more of a, I don't know. I don't know whether that's the right word, is it?
As the seconder, I'd be more comfortable with the word receive, okay?
Yes.
I'd be a lot more comfortable for a number of reasons.
So would I.
With the word receive.
Note or receive is fine. Would you like to, you amending it to receive, are you? Okay, no worries. Well, is the seconder happy with that? Excellent. Any other comments, questions, concerns? That being the case, we'll put it, all those in favour, all those against. Excellent. Thank you very much. So you're all good with that? Thank you. We now move to item 13.2, which is the 22-23 draft annual financial statements. It's quite a long recommendation here, but it's just really that Council formally adopts the draft annual financial statements for the year ending financial year ending June 30, 2023, as presented and referred to audit. The Mayor, the Deputy Mayor, General Manager and the responsible accounting officer be authorised to sign the statements by councillors and management on the preparation of the general purpose and special purpose financial statements for the year ending 30 June 23. The General Manager be delegated the authority to issue the audited financial statements upon receipt of the auditor's report, subject to there being no material audit changes or audit issues, and then finally that Council present the audited annual financial statements and auditor's report to the public at a meeting to be held in conjunction with the next available ordinary council meeting. I might just get the Director through the GM just to quickly give us a top line for a couple of minutes, if that would be okay.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through the GM, councillors will be aware the 21-22 financial statements were held up as a result of a number of issues. As a result, the 2022-2023 financial statements were delayed and extensions were sought. The councillors have in front of them a copy of the unaudited financial statements for 22-23, and they presently show a deficit of $4.647 million after capital income has been excluded. Now, that deficit has largely been brought about by the requirement to account for approximately $7 million loss on disposal of assets, namely the transport asset network, which equated to about $7 million. And that's a result of the major flood events over the last 3 years that councillors are aware of, and the backlog in the capitalisation of the capital work in progress. There was a backlog, you will recall, of capital works identified through the excessive WIP balance. It was reported initially at $46 million in 21-22. As a result of the capitalisations and the ongoing work and expensing of operational works in 2022-23, the WIP balance has been reduced to about $18 million for the 2022-23 financial year, and we believe that to be an accurate representation and a reasonable dollar value in terms of a council of our size. To put it into context, the original budget for 22-23 was projected to be a deficit of about $5.9 million. As I said earlier, the deficit looks like it's coming out to about 4.6. So through some prudent management on behalf of the executive and staff, and also recognising the required adjustments, the budget projection has been vetted by the financial year end 2022-23. I must comment on the huge amount of work that we have put in for the 22-23 year. There has been an enormous backlog of asset-related work, as we're aware of, and that was to be achieved in the 22-23 year. And we set about getting that done as soon as the 2022 financial statements and audit was completed. We engaged some external consultants, contractors. They were all pulled in with the assistance of our staff and determining processes, information that we had, what we needed, what was critical for success. And our measure of a success, to be clear for everybody, was to remove the disclaimer of audit opinion as soon as possible. The discussions that we held with the consultants, with the contractors and with various audit staff have determined that there was actually a chance of clearing that disclaimer of audit opinion in the 22-23 financial year if we revalued the assets, if we impaired the roads, and certain disclosures and identification of prior year errors or accounting speak for items that were recorded incorrectly in the past, usually by virtue of further information that's come to light in the intervening time, if all of that was recorded in the 22-23 financial statements. So when we set about to achieve this, the mountain of work we encountered was far in excess of what we imagined initially, but we persevered for the good of council and the community to show that the 21-22 result was a blip on the radar and that we could achieve good things with the staff we had and the assistance that we'd garnered. The end result is that council should see here in the form of the draft financial statements presented to the meeting that we don't expect, whilst we don't expect the statements to be exactly the same, because audit being audit, things may change minorly, but we don't expect wholesale changes. And after the audit has finalised all their checks and balances, they've reviewed the disclosure and what we've endeavoured to give them and pass the information through their technical committee, we believe, and I'm pretty confident that the audit for 22-23 will be clear of the disclaimer audit opinion, and a positive, significantly positive achievement for the community moving forward. And we've definitely got the Audit Office of New South Wales in particular on board with what we're trying to achieve, and they congratulated us on a significant amount of work that we have achieved so far.
Okay, before we actually move into the formal debate around this, we might just, I'll just give councillors an opportunity to ask a question of the Director and the GM at this particular time. Do we have any questions at this particular stage? Councillor Lamont.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's a bit of a problem being on this side, isn't it? I get missed out a bit. I've been looking at you all the time.
You do perfectly well. You do perfectly well.
Look, I must congratulate the General Manager, and particularly Ted and the staff that are here, because it's just bottomless what you could have had to go all the way back through to 2018, and I understand the background and why it was such a mess. But the situation we've got here as councillors is the auditors hold us responsible for the efficiency and the effectiveness of the organisation and make sure it's a going concern. And what worries me is I have a series of questions, Mr Mayor, about what I identified in the actual finance reports that I've been going through, the financial statements. And when do we get an opportunity to raise those questions other than at this format when the report the Director has got written that he read out just then? We don't have that. In the report that went to the community, for transparency's sake, there's very little information. When does that information get to go to the public? Because I, as a councillor, if I was the one signing off, like the Mayor or the Deputy Mayor, on these financials, like you will and Councillor Dickinson, as will the responsible accounting officer and the General Manager, we represent the community over here. They need to know. Now, we understand why a lot of these things were suppressed from the public in order to get on top of it, and it was great that the Director just explained that very eloquently and very clearly. But as councillors, we are ultimately responsible as a group that the Mayor and the Deputy sign off on those financials.
So do you have a question?
Most important. Yes, I do have a question.
Okay.
There's several
Excellent.
in there, Mr Mayor.
Yep.
And let me go back through them if you like me to go through the
that's
whole
fine.
page of them all.
You need to ask questions
Well,
in a
the
succinct
question
manner.
is, when are we going to get that report that the Director just read from? And my other question is, why wasn't it in the business paper
To the General
as a
Manager.
public document?
Thank you, Councillor. The General Manager.
Through the chair, what the director has just read from was a simplification for the purposes of explaining what those financial accounts or those financial statements are saying. If council is at liberty to, we could put out more communications based on those simplified words, just so that people have more of an understanding as to what the financial statements are saying. I do also believe that once we have been through the audit, all of the information is put out for public exhibition for a period. It's only for a period of 7 days. I believe last year we put it out for longer, but that is the time that the public have the ability to look at all the information and make comment to the audit office.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Bong.
Yes, I just wanted to follow up on Councillor Mont's question. Really, is when do councillors get to see all of these items and in detail explained, particularly in the change of capital? Excuse me, change of capital that he was referring to, which to me I'm not exactly familiar with where he's referring those issues from, and is there a process, more formal process, where we would get to look at these fundamental items of that were brought up?
Through the General Manager to the Director.
Do you want me to take it? Okay. Well, again, we're currently not through the audit yet. We can provide you all the information that we have at this point in time. I haven't got a problem with that, but I would prefer to have our audit undertaken, and then we bring a report back to council in the normal way. We have a normal process. When we bring it back to council, there is all the information plus the auditor's reports that come back to council. Like they did last year, I would suggest that is the proper process, and that is the normal process. So when those audited reports are produced and the audited financial statements are produced, they are brought back to council for ratification by this council.
Okay. Any other questions before we move into the formal motion? Councillor Lamont.
I'm happy to move the motion with an amendment as a part 5, that we formalise this when we get there. I'm not moving at the moment, I'm just foreshadowing what I'm proposing. We formalise it so we do have on the record a supplementary report from the General Manager and the Director on that statement made by the Director, and for any queries that we might raise as councillors. And one particular query I have is in page 31 of the statements with note B41, and that's how I was sort of wondering how specific you want to be with questions, Mr Mayor. There was a figure of 8.145 million in expenses for loss on sale of assets. Now, that appeared to me as an asset write-off in the absence of any explanation. And because we don't get explanations, how is the councillors expected to represent their communities accurately because we don't have committees, we don't have monthly finance reports, we don't have them broken down into things other than the functions? It means nothing. We do not have a handle on the financial situation of council. That's my issue, and it's no reflection on the current staff. It's what we as councillors throughout New South Wales have got to deal with. Every one of those councillors out there are dealing with a similar thing. So what are we doing about that?
Sorry, can you get to the question? Thank you, Councillor Mont.
Thanks for your tolerance.
No worries.
Trying to explain to people.
Yes, no worries.
It's complex to some that don't understand.
It is.
Through the chair, look, I just want to reassure you that I understand completely what you're saying. It's very complicated issues, and with the absence of sort of some element of detail, it's really difficult. And that was my intention. That is why I asked the director to prepare some specific words for this meeting to try and elaborate a little bit further. Because you're right, that write-off is in that line that you referred to, and it does relate to the flood damaged roads that we were required to write off through this process. So it's just the way the accounting system works, and that's the way it reflects through the accounts. But again, I'm more than happy to put some more detailed information together for elected members to provide that further sort of more easier to understand description of what these statements are saying.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. Do I have a mover for the motion? Councillor Clements, Councillor Baum, I think you were second, were you? Sorry.
Well, I was happy too, because oftentimes, Mr Mayor, when you're dealing with complex matters, people go silent because they don't want to look stupid. Okay? And the bottom line here is, I'm not saying any of us look stupid, but out of us all, I've got the most experience in it, and I'm happy to lead and help the staff doing a wonderful job.
Thank you, Councillor. Sorry, if you'd like to take your seat.
Look, I will move the motion, please.
We've got three people wanting to move the motion, so I'm going to be the wisdom at. Councillor Campbell, did I? Oh, sorry about that.
There's only one.
The first hand that was up was Councillor Campbell. Councillor Lamont foreshadowed that he was going to move the motion. Councillor Bowen was the second hand that moved up, and that's who I.
Foreshadowed to move the motion. Councillor, I'm going to move the motion in preparation for the motion. You've announced the motion and go to business.
So I'm just going to make a ruling on this. We've got Councillor Campbell's going to move it, and Councillor Bowen is going to be the seconder on this motion, if we're happy with that, and we can have a proper debate about it. Would you like to speak to your motion, Councillor Campbell?
Yeah, I'd like to congratulate the staff on, and as we all understand, a great deal of work. I've the utmost confidence in what processes we've been down throughout this whole period, and there's no boogeyman in there. These are people and staff members doing a particularly good job under difficult circumstances, reaching out to resources outside of council to ensure that the job gets done on time and gets done well. There is no issue from my point of view. The $8 million that Councillor Lamont mentioned, I recognise that in your preamble, where that came from. You know, once again, congratulations to the staff. I think we should just move on from this, wait till the auditors have gone through it and follow a proper process. That's when councillors will get their information and get the results at the end of the day, Mr Mayor, of the auditor's report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Clements.
I'd like to speak on this.
I'd love you to speak. If you could stand up, that would be great. Thank you.
I'll do that. And look, again, I'll add my endorsement of the current team and the work they've done. They've had to unpick some things, and that hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy for us as councillors, but I'm happy with where this is going. I will refer to Councillor Lamont's statement. I know that the Minister for Local Government regularly in public says that councillors should be better provided with information on budgets. It's one of his wishes that councillors are provided more information and are more involved in budgets. So I think the notion that all will be revealed in the future is fine, that's true, but we're signing off on something today, and I will endorse the request from Councillor Lamont that we be provided with more information, not to delay today. I'm happy to vote on this today. I have confidence in our staff. But in an endeavour to make sure that councillors are more involved in the budget process, because it is our responsibility, and more informed, I think that the matters raised by Councillor Lamont, it would be good to see a report. But I'll finish by saying the staff have my utmost confidence, and I'm pleased with where this is at. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clements. Councillor, do we have any more comments? Councillor Clements.
I can speak against... No, not Clements, that's him.
Sorry.
Councillor Campbell doesn't want to be called Clements. I don't want to be
Councillor
called
Lamont.
Clements. That's in there. Just a bit of clarity here, Mr Mayor. At what stage... Well, we've got a public document here and we've got questions about it. At what stage do we ask those questions?
So can I just answer something? Before council meetings, unless it's in a dire situation, councillors are strongly encouraged to preempt or provide or email or phone up any of our directors and the GM to kind of give them, to foreshadow, to give them a sense of what questions that they would like thorough answers to, and I think that's a really good process, and it's what's provided for in our code of meeting practice. It's something I reminded councils about for every single council meeting, unless it's something that's just come up at the last minute. But I think you've been working on this for days. You sound like you're all over it, which is great. But that's kind of, you know, that's the, and I'm going to hand it to our GM actually.
Through the chair, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You're more than welcome to ask any questions now. You're also more than welcome to ask any questions when we bring the audited report or audited financial statements back to council for ratification prior to public exhibition. And of course, we'll provide the auditor's report at that time as well, which will provide further detail on what the auditors believe their position is as well. So now is a good time if you have some more detailed questions now. But also when we bring these, when we bring the audited financials back, is also another very good opportunity for questions to be asked. That will be the ordinary June meeting, is what we're targeting.
Thank you very much. Any other comments, questions for the directors or the GM? Councillor Lamont?
It's hard going, Mr Mayor.
No, it's not. You do.
Question because Councillor Campbell on page 79 is omitted from the list of councillors. Omitted. How dare that happen? Hey? And he was the mayor when all these kerfuffles went on.
It would be hopeful that our auditors pick that up.
He's forgotten already. No, you shouldn't be.
It happens to all ex-mayors, I think. I think it's. I need to start preparing my feather duster, I think.
Yeah, you know, Mr Mayor, just a comment back to your issue about people contacting the GM and the directors and all that sort of stuff. That's fine, but we're all working councillors.
We are.
And I squeeze my time in to read my business paper before I come to every meeting. I get a hard copy out there because I keep the record for me to refer back to.
Yep.
And I was up extremely early this morning, yesterday afternoon, getting these questions. So it's difficult for me when I'm travelling to get the information to these guys when they're complex. I'm happy to provide them separately to save time here. But the bottom line is, it's the transparency. Equally, you say to me, give you a list of questions to the directors. I say equally, why can't the General Manager and the Director give us that report that he read from there? That would have been great before this meeting. My point.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lamont. Any other comments, questions or concerns? You've got final closing. Oh, Councillor Bowen.
As the seconder of the motion, I suppose,
Excellent.
I would certainly like to endorse the other comments that have been made about the progress that we've actually made, and I thank the Director and the General Manager for ensuring that we've actually taken that process and taken it really seriously. But I also endorse the comments that Councillor Lamont is talking about, in that the additional information is needed. And I then refer back to your comment, Mayor, that we should be asking questions in advance. Well, like many of us, we're flat chat most of the time, and for us to get through the entire process, and I did comment to you earlier that I hadn't really finished all of the financials at all. It was far too long and complex work for me to go through in time to formulate the questions that I will build over time between now and June, clearly. So the point that I'm trying to make is that I think we need as much of that information as possible, in particular the issues that have changed. The issues that remain the same are understood. It's where there is divergence from what we would normally expect, impairments, write-downs, and all of those sorts of things. We need to see inside, open up the bonnet and have a look at that, just to reassure ourselves that we are all endorsing both the Mayor and the Deputy and the Directors to sign off. And I understand that this needs to be signed off today, but I think there's a long way to go, and I'm really looking forward to that process as being an open and transparent and engaging process that we can take. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're all busy. Our code of meeting practice is very clear. Very clear. If you've got questions, let the directors know well in advance. And the internet's a wonderful thing. I find it quite handy. We all text directors, and it's great technology, and it really helps us manage our time better. Would you like closing?
Only a quick closing, just to say that once again I congratulate the staff. I feel that we've been given a huge amount of information over a great length of time in all of this, so I'm completely confident in the staff and the management of this situation. But I do want to remind councillors that councillors aren't elected for their expertise. They're here as councillors to represent the community, and it's not for councillors to premise that it's their expertise that can assist council or staff to get on with all this.
Point of order.
I'm stating a fact.
What's your point of order, Councillor
Very
Clements?
clearly, the Local Government Act says that we have a governance role. Governance roles are not carried out in ignorance. So we actually do have a role and input into this council based on our experience, based on our knowledge, and it is incumbent upon us. We are a governance role.
And that's fine. So the premise of Councillor Lamont with regard to he's got a great deal of experience here and he's willing and he wants to help the staff get through this is inappropriate. And that's why I said, and you'll find it in the council handbook, the council states that councillors are not here for their expertise. That assists us all, but it's not, we're not here for our expertise to help staff do something that I don't help staff deal with their rubbish.
Point of order.
To the General Manager.
Sorry, I don't want to labour any points or go on too much further from my perspective, but I just want to re-emphasise. I've heard some of the conversation, and the words that we used today. There was nothing in the director's words that wasn't already contained within the financial statement. So there was no new information in terms of what the director said. The director said things that were a joint effort between him and myself in terms of trying to simplify the headline issues for the purposes of a streamed council meeting, so that the public would have a better understanding, as well as our elected members. What I'm happy to do is to convert those words that we used today into a document for elected members that I'm more than happy to circulate after the meeting, so that everybody does have that sort of. I don't want to say simplified because it's still complex issues at foot here, but just a more digestible set of words to accompany those financial statements to provide that extra level of surety that we've got all the information that we need.
Thank you very much, Mr. GM.
I'm sorry, but
So, before you raise your point of order, what clause in our meeting procedure are you referring to? Like, what's
the clause that Councillor Campbell referred to is the clause I'm referring to. Okay.
Which
very clearly, well, it's already been stated in this meeting, it's a matter of record. You didn't pull Councillor Campbell up on it, so you shouldn't pull me up on it. Quite simply, I don't contest his concerns that a councillor may be directing staff. That very much we cannot direct staff and never should. But we are not here as items of ignorance. We are here to give our experience into this process. So there is a difference between offering your experience and directing, and I'll note that, Councillor Campbell, I appreciate your concern. We should never try and direct staff. That would be a stupid and wrong thing to do. But we are not here to be ignorant vessels. We are here to provide the experience of our lives, and our role is clearly stated in the Act. Thank you.
Obviously, I didn't say that.
The debate. Sorry, I'm going to shut this down. We're going to vote on this. Sorry about that, Councillor. This could go on all day, but it's we read the room. There will be additional notes provided, which will literally paraphrase the item here. And we're going to vote on this right now.
Mr Mayor, can I go with the minutes? This has happened in this council before, be attached to the minutes, because the gentleman over here did speak. Whether we're being taped or they can see it out there or not, I don't know, but it's a very important statement that he made If it's not in the business paper, it needs to be a further report to come back, and I'll continue to move amendments if you need to do that, but I'm happy to go along with what we're doing here now. If
An
the
appendix.
the general manager makes an appendix to the minutes, please.
We'll just get the director to speak through the general manager.
Still in the manager, through the chair. Yeah, it's open to a councillor to move an amendment to that effect. And in the minutes is where I'd put it, if I were moving an amendment to the motion.
Unless the mover wants to make a tweak, add an item 5 to it, which is that the general manager provides an appendix to the items today for public disclosure. But it's up to you as the mover if you'd like to do that.
I have no issue with what the director statement going into the public. There's nothing wrong with that, and so I've got no issue with that if that's the motion we're looking at amending.
Seconder, are you happy with an additional item 5, which is about this, Councillor Bowen?
No, I'm
He has to agree to
as a
it.
seconder,
He has to agree to
I
it.
do endorse that
You happy with that?
direction.
No worries. Thank you very much. We might just write this up just briefly. We don't need to debate it again. It's just do that as well. Yeah, no worries. Okay. So the motion as it stands at the moment, the new it's not an amendment. It's just a tweak by the mover of the motion, and that is that the statement read by the Director of Financial and Commercial Services on this item be annexed to the minutes of this meeting. Are you happy with that, mover?
Yeah, I've got no problem with that.
No worries. Seconder, happy with that? Thank you. Can we put that, everyone? I put that. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Let's move on to the next item, which is the infrastructure. It's item 13.3, which is infrastructure delivery status report, March 2024. The council receive and note. There we go. We've got receive and note. The infrastructure delivery status report for March 2024. Through the General Manager, I will ask the Director to speak to that if she could.
Thank you, through the General Manager. As per the report, I think it's pretty simple and detailed, but I would also want to note that we have included on the website weekly updates now, so you can jump on the website and see all the infrastructure delivery weekly updates.
You've also streamlined the duplicate items as well, which was they weren't duplicates; they were different sections of the same road. Yep, no worries. Councillor Clements, would you?
I would like to move the motion. I would like to add a second point to the recommendation, which I think I've emailed through perhaps successfully to the team up front.
Okay, we'll just.
I'll read it. That a report be provided into the matters raised by Mr Hutton with specific focus on changes in landform and drainage and any resulting increase in water inundation impacts on his property.
Okay, thank you.
Can't cut and paste up there. Things got ugly with the staff threw bottles of water at the councillors.
Okay, it looks like we've got the motion up there, which you're happy to move. Do I have a seconder, by the way, to the motion?
Second, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Lamont. Now the motion as reads is that council receive and note the infrastructure delivery report for March 2024. The report be provided into the matters raised by Mr Hatton with specific focus on the changes in landform and drainage and any result in the increase in water inundation impacts on his property. You happy with that, Councillor Clements? Righto. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Briefly, look, this is such an important report. They all are, but this is the one that councillors most often end up engaged with the public, and always appreciate the opportunity for councillors to raise some questions. So, and clearly, Mr Hatton, there are things that we need to deal with there, and I'm sure that the staff will deal with them, and we'll see something at the next meeting. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any other councillors like to speak on this item at all? Okay, there being no further issues, I put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, councillors. We now move on to item 14. The numbers are wrong on my docs on tap. Item 13.4, which is Planning and Development Report. The item here is for the month of March 2024. The council receives the Planning and Development Report for March 2024. I'll just through the General Manager. I'll call on the Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through the General Manager, monthly report is as read. Highlights for this month are the Fire Control Centre, the Namoy Guida Fire Control Centre being green lit. That facility is going to be located on the corner of the Newell Highway and Kamilaroo Highways opposite the depot, and it's a greatly needed new facility for our region. The good news around the securing of additional resources within the planning team, we've been able to successfully employ another town planner in Mr Andrew Soslos, who I'm sure you'll get to meet in the near future. Andrew comes to us from the Queensland and a welcome addition to the team. We're also finalising recruitment for a development systems officer, which will greatly help support the team in their administration functions and navigating the ever popular New South Wales planning portal. The other good news in that team is our own flood portal. The Water Ride Light platform has been nominated for an excellence award, so hopefully we'll get some good news on that front in June. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Do you have any questions before we move into formal? Councillor Lamont.
Yeah, this new planner, I was writing at the time, I didn't fully get everything that you're saying. Our current health and building surveyor person is limited by what levels and that they can certify as a building certifier. Is this new person in that world, or is it in the planning world? And if not, what are we doing about a higher level certifier?
Through the General Manager to the Director.
Thanks, Councillor Lamont. A very fair question. Unfortunately, not a unicorn in the planning building dual qualified. We are utilising the services of external qualified buildings certifiers up to A1. We are looking also at recruiting our own junior building surveyor, and that's currently with our People and Values team at the moment. But if anyone does know a building surveyor that wants to relocate to beautiful Narrabri, give me a call.
Or any other part of... Yeah, exactly. Councillor Bohm, did you have a question for
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a
the
couple of
team?
questions. I'm wondering whether the director could provide any updates at all on the issue of the state government support for raising houses and so on as well. And my second question was, are you able to provide, actually number three, any details of conversations or direction on the SAP or former SAP land, and what directions, if any, will council be expected to look at in the medium to short term on that? And then finally on the Capitar, or the so-called Capitar residential development, are we able to get a bit of a progress report on that, either as a supplementary report or a verbal description of how that's travelling? Thanks.
Thank you. Through the General Manager to the Director.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the General Manager. In relation to the voluntary house raising, that is an item that staff will turn their minds to over the next 6 to 12 months in terms of pursuing potential grant opportunities. We will also look at a specific session with the Floodplain Risk Management Advisory Committee around that particular topic. So we shall keep council posted in that regard. In relation to the Special Activation Precinct, or the former special... Yeah. Oh.
Yep. No worries. Councillor Clements left the room at 2:11. Thank you very much, Councillor. Sorry, continue on.
In relation to the former Special Activation Precinct, the work around the Narrabri Place strategy, I was in discussions with Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure representatives yesterday. They advised me that the body of work's progressing internally through the department. They expect advice within the next couple of weeks in relation to potential public exhibition timeframes. Unfortunately, I don't have anything firm around those dates. As we know, it's a state-led project and not a council-led project. And furthermore, with respect to the Narrabri South, or former Capitar Precinct, again, that's wrapped into to that body of work. So I anticipate that we'll know more in the next immediate future. As soon as I do receive advice from the department in relation to timeframes, I'll communicate those urgently to councillors so that you're aware of progress. On a allied matter, we have commenced work with Department of Planning and Housing and Infrastructure on a Narrabri rural lands strategy. There is consultations happening with the Chamber and other key stakeholders commencing next week. The company Rambol has been engaged to conduct that body of work, and further information on that project will come to hand progressively. There is quite an urgency that we're seeing from the department in terms of progressing the various strategies, and I'm sure we're all eager to see the fruits of our labour over the last couple of years.
Thank you very much, Director. Any other questions?
Yeah, if I can,
Councillor
by
Bolt.
way of explanation, some might think that I might have a conflict of interest in this place, but my new declaration will identify that I don't have any conflict of interest in terms of the SAP, that we've withdrawn from this. I'm very unfortunately a very major project, and we're now moving somewhere else. So we
Thank you,
unfortunately
Councillor
can't
Bolt.
do it in Narrabri.
Excellent, thank you. Do I have a mover for this motion? Councillor Dickinson, Councillor Clement, Councillor Campbell. God, that's a real Freudian slip. Sorry about that. No, we've got to vote on it. All those in did you want any formal debate about it? Any questions or formal debate? We'll move that straight to. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Can someone call Councillor Clements back into the room? Very impressed. It gets a bit much sometimes.
They're my questions. You have me on the
We now move to item 13.5, which is the resolution register from March to April 2024. Certainly, I don't think we need a lot of debate, but we might. Do I have a mover on that motion at all? Councillor Campbell, Councillor Clements. Councillor Campbell, would you like to speak to your motion? No. Councillor Dickinson.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question. I asked about connecting finding funding and connecting the cameras in Weewar back to the police station. I've noticed that it's dropped off the resolution register. It was on the finished register. It's completely dropped off now. I'd just like to know, have these cameras been connected up to the police station and the funding been found? And if so, if not, why has it disappeared?
To the General Manager, take it on notice, please.
I think I'd be right in saying they have not been connected to the police station
They haven't.
and the funding hasn't been sourced. So I'm not sure about where it was on the action register, but it will be reinstated. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Richardson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just on that, there may be some information in the Crime Prevention Committee as well, Councillor Dickinson. Just wanting to know if there's any further updates on the doctor's residency in Boggabri. Sorry for not actually having this pre-questioned like I do normally.
Through the General Manager to the Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, through the GM. No, Councillor Richardson, there's no update at this time. We're still in discussions with the third party.
Right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Clements.
Item 7, I'm just wondering when we think we'll see a report on that, please.
Through the General Manager to the Director.
Yep. So they have a draft version of the scoping report, which will be presented to council when the next briefing session allows. They're quite booked up at the moment, so it'll probably be in June.
Thank you very much, Director. Any other questions or comments, or should we go straight into? I'm going to put the vote. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. We now move to item 13.6, which is the ordinary council meeting schedule until September 2024. As we all know, council exactly 4 weeks before the election
Ceases to exist.
yes, well, basically ceases to exist in its form, and at 13 on the 13th of September at midnight, I'm no longer mayor, which is the way it is. So we've sought legal advice to try and just understand the machinations of all that. There are very strict guidelines in terms of what the council can do during that period of time. But anyway, it's the ordinary until September. There's a meeting schedule that's been established, and Do I have a mover on that? Jason, do you want to go through that? Sorry, Director.
Through the chair, just very quickly. This report has resulted from a notice that we received from the Electoral Commission with regards to the timing of the declaration of the results from the election. But what it did indicate is that from the 13th of September, Council ceases to exist. The elections are on the 14th of September, but the declaration of new councillors won't be announced formally until early October, and that therefore meant that we couldn't have a meeting in September, and therefore this is the report to formally cancel that meeting.
I'd just like to move it, get on with it.
Councillor Clements, you want to move that? Do I have a seconder? I think it was Councillor Campbell. Would you like to speak to your motion?
And just say it makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, concerns, etc.? I'll put that. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, councillors. We now move to item 13.7, which is the draft internal audit charter. The recommendation here is that council adopts the draft internal audit charter. Is there any? Do you want to comment on that?
Through the chair, this is one of the many things that we have to do as a result of the new guidelines into risk management and 1,000 other things issued by the local government, the Office of Local Government. The draft internal audit charter is based on the model that they've released. We haven't really fiddled with anything of substance out of that model, because why would you duplicate the work that they've done that's good? So this aligns as closely as anything is going to with what those guidelines require.
Thank you very much, Director. Do I have a mover on this motion? Councillor Richardson. I think it was Councillor Dickinson. As a seconder, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Richardson, would you like to speak to your motion? No worries. Any other comments? I'll put that to the floor. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. We now move to item 13.8, which is the review of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee Terms of Reference. The item here is that the Council adopts the Terms of Reference that have been updated to adapt to the model Terms of Reference as required in the guidelines for risk management and internal audit work for local government in New South Wales. That Council adopts the addition of reimbursement for reasonable travel costs for ARIC members, including the chairperson, into the Terms of Reference due to the significant rise of travelling, and to encourage more attendance at the meetings by committee members in the future, as detailed below. Use of a private vehicle reimbursed at the rate of kilometres per, as determined in the local government state award, and one night's accommodation per meeting, and reimbursed at the actual expense. Might just get through the General Manager, I might get just a bit of a top line on this as well. Thank you.
Through the chair again. Again, this is another matter that's arisen from those new guidelines. Again, this is based on the model. We're not reinventing the wheel. The topic of reimbursement of expenses is new in that we currently don't. I think it's an essential thing. The fees that we pay our ARIC members currently isn't a lot. Considering the remit of work they have and the amount of work they have to do. And two of our current ARIC members are from out of the area and so have to travel. And so it's the staff's, it's the staff's proposal to the council that ARIC members shouldn't be out of pocket for doing their service to the council and the community. And so the recommendation into goes some way into ensuring that they're not out of pocket for doing that service, because it's with those new guidelines and with the requirements on ARIC. As a result of those new guidelines, it is going to be quite a big and onerous task for them.
Just to clarify around the ARIC committee, the voting members of ARIC are independent, so this is remuneration for people who are recruited on the basis of their expertise, and they are obviously remunerated to be on this committee, which is a good thing. Councillor Bowen.
A question if I can.
Yes.
Page 83, you've noted here that reimbursement for travel expenses is estimated to be $24.80 per financial year. And
Sorry, what did you say?
page 83,
Yep.
towards the end, financial implications. Reimbursement of reasonable travel expenses is estimated to be $24.80 for a financial year. Does that include all ARIC members? And secondly, in the second sentence, this is based on $310 for attendance at 4 meetings. Is that for attendance at each? $310 each for 4 meetings. Is that how you're meaning it? It's not quite saying that.
Thank you for that. I'll seek clarity on that from the manager through the general manager. Thanks. The Director of Finances.
Sorry, through the chair, I had to rip open the calculator. That's why I'm a lawyer and not an accountant. That's correct. So that's based on our current composition. So one of our independent ARIC members is a local, and so the travel and accommodation doesn't arise for that particular member. But 2 of the other independent members, including the chair, are from out of town, and so I understand that the author of the report, the senior risk advisor, has calculated the average distance that they would cover in reaching that figure, and so that $310 is per meeting between those two members.
For each person? For each person. Yeah.
It could probably be a little bit clearer, yeah.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for the manager or the GM?
Just a quick question. I don't want to know names, but is there a fair level of non-attendance currently?
To the general manager or to the manager?
There's not. One of the members, and it's not because of lacking means to attend, it's just that she has other work commitments, attends by video link quite frequently. But this was partly as a request from the chair to consider whether travel and accommodation expenses be considered by council. I know other councils do reimburse travel and accommodation, and I think before our current payment arrangements, this council did as well, when the meeting fee was much lower. Don't hold me to that, but I have a vague recollection that when our meeting fee was much lower for ARIC members than it currently is, we also included travel and accommodation, but it got dropped off when we increased the fee.
Thank you very much. Do I have a mover on this motion? Councillor Clements and Councillor Lamont. Councillor Clements, would you like to speak to your motion?
Very briefly, look, I think it's entirely reasonable that normal expenses be met. So yeah, I'm happy to endorse this.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? I'm going to put that to the meeting. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We've got item 13.9. The item here is current community advocacy opportunities, April 2024. Our recommendation here is that Council receive and note the report on April 2024 community advocacy opportunities, that Council endorses the draft organisational submission on the New South Wales Reconstruction Authority review of the New South Wales Reconstruction Authority Act 2022, and also finally that Council endorse the draft organisational submission on the inquiry into the prevention of cruelty to animals amendment, virtual stock fencing bill 2024. I'll just through the GM, get the director just to give us a top line on this one.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through the General Manager, as councillors can see, our cup runneth over in respect of inquiries and hearings that we have the opportunity to advocate on behalf of our community. So there is a number of inquiries underway as detailed in the report. Councillors will also note that I have provided you with a copy of a staff level submission to the current New South Wales Parliament inquiry on the ability of local government to fund infrastructure and services. The draft submissions are us read. As always, I'm happy to receive your comments and potential inclusions in those organisational submissions, and also I'm happy to take any questions.
Sorry, Councillor Clements has just left the room. It's 2:30. Thank you. Thank you very much, Director. Do we have any comments or questions of the Director at all, or the General Manager? Do I have a mover on this motion? Councillor Richardson. Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Councillor Richardson, would you like to speak to your motion?
Just for all those, a lot of work's gone into them, you can see, and I think it's something that it's not a day-to-day of council, but we're putting in the extra effort to make sure we have our voice heard in the regional New South Wales area. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dickinson.
Yeah, I'd like to endorse that, and that the staff actually take an interest and put their voice forward into some of these submissions, and shows that they're actually participating in, legislation for government. So I think it's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dickinson. Any other comments about this? Councillor Bowl.
Thank you, Mayor. I endorse what Councillor Dickinson's just saying. I mean, yes, there's a lot of report writing, but this is the voice of our community going to state government. I really think this is a really important function of local government, is to properly inform state government and wherever necessary through to federal government, and that we don't just sit quietly and sit quietly in the corner. I think it's a very good thing to have be known as an advocate and known as a thoughtful community. So I endorse the direction you're taking.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any other comments, concerns, etc.? I'll just through the General Manager to the Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through the General Manager, I'm sorry, councillors, I neglected to mention that a review of the emergency services levy is also underway, and with comments due by the 15th of May. I think we'd all agree that the current system's quite inequitable and burdens heavily local government. So also the team are preparing a submission in relation to that current review process. So we'll forward a copy in due course. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director.
I just ask a supplementary on that particular one, if you're not allowed. This has been discussed before, and one of the questions that I think would be useful to have answered or addressed is to what cost? You talk about the actual cost. Is it possible then to quantify that and codify that so that we actually have, or the community can see what these direct costs are, particularly in this emergency services side?
Thank you very much to the Director through the General Manager.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Bond. That's an excellent question, and we might prepare a briefing note in that regard just to quantify the current cost structure to this authority, and also some context around the methodology for that levying in the context of the current review.
Thank you very much. We have a mover, we have a seconder. I put it to the floor. All those in favour? All those against, it's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, councillors. We now move to item 13.10, acceptance of tenders under delegation, April 2023. The recommendation from staff here is that council notes the determination of tenders under delegation for the period to March 2024. I might just give the floor to the Director through the General Manager just for a quick top line of this item, please.
Through the General Manager, this is a legislative requirement that we must provide to Council every 3 months the tenders that have been signed off under the GM's delegation, and all the details are as per the report.
Thank you very much. Do I have a mover on this item? Councillor Bowen, Councillor Richardson, thank you very much. Councillor Bowen, would you like to speak to this at all?
Thank you. Well, really a question for the Director, if I can.
Sure.
At the last meeting, one of the tenderers on this document was deemed not to have suitable certification for the road, the Pilliga Road. So is this particular contract not related to that level of certification, or is it? Can you describe then how these would be accepted if there hasn't been a material change in how the company operates?
Thank you, Councillor. Through the General Manager to the Director.
Thank you. Through the General Manager. Because this report is previous 3 months, and that one actually I'm not sure why it's in this report because it's an older contract. So that's the Old Narrabri Road and Tarawan intersection. So that's nearly finished at the moment. And we didn't put on that requirement in the tender. They didn't have to be R2 accredited. However, the project at Woomera Creek of Pilliga Roadway does have that requirement. They have to be R2 accredited.
Thank you very much. Any other comments, questions, concerns? We have a mover, we have a seconder. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously, including Councillor Clemens. Did you? Excellent, excellent. Righto. And now move on to item 1311, which is the adoption of the Narrabri Shire Council Draft Management Plan. I might just throw that before we go into formal on this. I might just throw that back to the Director through the General Manager just to give us a top line on the work that her team's been doing on this.
Through the General Manager. Yes, you would know this came to Council in a previous meeting. We went out to public exhibition. We got 0 submissions received, and now it's coming back to Council for adoption. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director. Do we have any questions, concerns, or do we have a mover for the motion? Do you have a question or a concern or a mover? You're not a mover, okay. I might get you to ask the question first. Thank you, Councillor Clements.
Look, my question is why we're using external triggers, drought declarations, as a trigger for, and I've raised this before in this discussion, for modifying our usage of bore water, which runs on a 1,000-year cycle. Rivers run on a weekly, monthly cycle. If we were river water dependent, I would understand these triggers. I do not understand them all for groundwater. I think we've got such a blessing in this shire and such a benefit that we have groundwater that I'm not sure why we would be turning this shire browner at times based on things that have no impact on bore water. I've raised this before.
Thank you, Councillor. That was a statement, I guess.
No, it's a question.
There's a question. Through to the Director or General Manager. To the General Manager. Okay. All right.
The plan, as detailed in the report, was developed using New South Wales government best practices. So basically, they have a template which we've used that, and that's where that comes from. So it comes from the state government in their template to develop these drought management plans.
Yeah, look, I'll be opposing. I've made it very clear previously that when we're using triggers that are unrelated to the water supply, that I will oppose.
So do we have a mover on this motion? Councillor Richardson. Do we have a seconder? Seconder, thank you very much. Do we have any other... would you like to speak to your motion, by the way?
Yeah, I think by memory in our briefing it was only once that we would have to invoke the drought management and lower the water usage in the past. Forgive me if that was the wrong figure, but it was some months ago we had our presentation. With that, I do believe when other neighbouring shires are struggling even for drinking water and household water, I think it's irresponsible for us to be watering lawns. And I'm an avid, love green grass, soft grass, but I think it's that entirety, not just exclusive to our shire, that we need to be conscious of. And I'm happy to adopt this policy.
Motion. Do I have a seconder on this motion? Councillor Lamont. Would you like to speak to your motion? Any other comments for or against this motion? You've spoken.
No, I haven't.
No, you've already spoken about your opposition. I might just give it to you.
I actually haven't spoken.
Councillor
The motion
Clements.
wasn't moved. The motion is moved now, and I'll speak against. Look, with reference to Councillor Richardson, I respect the concept that we need to be respectful of our neighbours. But quite simply, we have a benefit in the Shire of being on bore water. It's not the Great Artesian Basin, it's sub-artesian bore water. And it was wonderful during the drought to see this Shire green, because there is nothing more depressing, and I mean depressing for human beings, but depressing for the economy, than brown shires. And we don't have to do that, but currently we're adopting a set of rules that will make this place browner during droughts unrelated to water supply. As simple as that. We are blessed with bore water that runs on a very long cycle, does not respond to 2 months of being dry or 6 months of being dry, or frankly 2 years of being dry. It is on a long cycle. And I note that these rules will apply unilaterally across the Shire upon the judgment of staff. Well, I think all those things are a mistake, and I rise to speak against this, as I previously indicated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Councillor Clements on this one. It concerns me. I fully endorse his words on a green Shire. I fully get Councillor Richardson, and I just think it would be a tragedy if we risk the opportunity we have here of remaining green. And I know throughout the 3 years of drought that we had here in recent years, or a few years back, the joy people got with regard to their lawns. We have water restrictions anyway, 10 till 4. Up till 10 o'clock in the morning and from 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I think that's ample restriction. And if we had no water in the water table, if we had, no water in the dams and all that sort of stuff, if there was a risk there, well, so be it. But we saw through this drought that we have an ample supply. We know we have an ample supply of water. Let's not waste it, but let's make the most of it. So I'm against the motion.
Thank you. Any other comments, Councillor? Oh, you need to switch your mic on, sorry. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor. This has been raised a few times. One of the things, there are two issues that really struck me. One is that we're being, as a community, we're being told by somebody else from a very long way away. I know there's a very parochial, NIMBY sort of an approach, but in this particular case, having a point of differentiation for our Shire-wide, I think is really important. So I really don't support this motion at all, and I think it's an opportunity for us to make our own determination, make our own rules and bylaws that really suit us as a community. And I think we would find that the support around the community for us to make our own rules in this relation are pretty important. And as Councillor Campbell rightly pointed out, we actually do have restriction on a regular basis, so it's not a free-for-all. And that provides, ample guidance for community to be moderate and conservative with their water use. So I would not support the motion.
Thank you. There was certainly ample opportunity for people to make comments. It was obviously we've got no submissions from anyone, not even councillors. Any other comments that we've got? Excellent, that's great. Any other comments about this? Any comments or concerns? Would you like to speak to your motion, Councillor Lamont? Well, you're seconding the motion. No worries. Any other? I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? The motion is lost. Okay, now the next one goes through to, this is item 13.12, which is the minutes of the Narrabri Airport Advisory Committee meeting held on the 19th of September 2023. That the minutes of the Narrabri Airport Advisory Committee meeting held on the 19th of September 2023 be received and the proposed actions therein be adopted. Just as a bit of a note, the previous chair was Councillor Boehm in that situation, although he wasn't necessarily at that meeting. Would you like to speak to the motion through the General Manager to the Director?
Yes, Mr Mayor, through the GM. Council will note the previous meeting, 19 September 2023, the Airport Advisory Committee was held. The previous meeting to that was quite a long time before due to the global pandemic. In terms of actions coming out of that meeting, the Airport Emergency Management Plan was to be presented to the committee. The sub-plan was to be presented to the LEMC for adoption. Investigation of potential exercises and amending of terms of references to be, rather than service plan, to be the master plan.
Thank you very much. Mr Director. Any other comments, concerns, etc.? Councillor Dickinson. Oh,
Something funny here because it normally goes to green. We must be getting taped. There's something wrong.
Righto.
So we're all doing reds, yeah. Something wrong with the system.
Councillor Dickinson.
I think I was first.
Excellent.
And I was watching the camera to see where it would go. Just a quick question. I notice in here that the Leocons investigate the potential exercise for the airport. I'm just wondering if anyone in this room knows when the last emergency exercise was at the airport.
Just a week or two ago.
A planned one. A planned.
To the General Manager. So no one knows. Right, okay.
When's the last emergency exercise?
I can answer the question.
I think it was 2022.
Yep. It's not a requirement anymore, but it's...
Yeah. It was 2022. I can confirm that and I can send an email out, but also it's not a requirement. It used to be a requirement that we had to do exercise at the airport. Currently it's not. However, we are, as the LEMO, and with Ted, we are in conversation with the LEMC. We are going to perform exercises even though we don't legislatively have to do that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Director. Any other comments, concerns? Do we have a mover for this motion? Councillor Dickinson, the seconder. Councillor Clements. Would you like to speak to your motion? No. I'm going to put the motion. Any debate? No. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously. I'd like to go back to the previous item, which is the drought management plan. There is a bit of confusion about the vote, and in our meeting. In our code of meeting practice, there is provision for us to either have a re-vote or for us to seek clarity on the numbers there. There is a bit of a dispute about those numbers. Would
you like me to move the recommittal back to that item, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I'd like you to move the recommittal.
Such.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move we're going to have a recommittal of that vote. Let's go back to the agenda item for a moment. People can change their vote on this, by the way, if that's required. Councillor Lamont, would you like to speak to this?
Yeah, no, the reason why I voted that down, Mr Mayor, and for the recommittal is if you've got a concern with the vote, we need to deal with that. We can't leave here if there's a concern with the vote. That's the reason why I moved the motion for you to recommit it. But I'm in support of that drought management plan not being adopted by this council. I was one of the 4.
So, yep. So you're against the motion?
No, I'm for the motion to recommittal, which is what you've got to put. And there wasn't just a procedure.
It's just through the chair. It's just for clarity's sake. The minute taker and I just missed where the vote's actually laid, so we just wanted to make sure that we got it right as it's written on the screen. Yeah. We just want to make sure that what's on the screen is what actually people actually voted. Yeah.
So you voted against a motion that you seconded.
I didn't know I seconded it. That might have been confusion. I seconded it because I wanted the debate,
I
right?
think it was.
I confirm my vote.
Oh, I'm still in two minds about the whole thing, but anyway. What's that? Councillor Baum, speak.
I think what you're really aiming to do is just to identify who voted for what, not to actually have a new debate. So my point of order I'm making to you is not to be coercive, not to signal your intentions or your reticence. It's not about that at all. I think that's so. I'm calling the just ask how people voted, and that's the end of it. No further comment.
Yep. You can re-vote on things, by the way. It's allowed in our code at any time. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Okay, let's move on, everyone. Let's move to item 1313, which is a delegate report for the Country Mayors Association Regional Housing Conference in Forbes, held on from the 8th to the 9th of April. I'll just speak to that for a moment. Sorry. So I attended the Country Mayors Association Regional Housing Conference in Forbes. It was a very worthwhile process. We had a significant number of different speakers, not just those from, not just politicians, but experts from all across the field. It's a little bit of a shame that, staff were very, very busy at that particular time and couldn't get to this, but it was, I found it quite illuminating. My report's got quite a bit of information in there. Also, Country Mayors has some presentations if any of the councillors are particularly interested in any of those items. There are presentations that are up and available on the Country Mayors Association website. But it was a wide-ranging discussion. I think there was certainly many of the issues that we face in Narrabri Shire are being certainly faced right across regional New South Wales. There's some serious gaps in certainly skills availability. There's lots of issues that people had with the planning portal at a state level. Overall, I thought it was a very, very constructive meeting, and there was lots of interesting viewpoints. Some shires are creating modular approaches to housing, where they're fabricating little mini houses, or they're fabricating more sort of modular approaches to housing. It was interesting we had someone from the Tiny Homes Association, where they were looking at all these different types and looking at the legislation around tiny homes. Most mayors, certainly, and general managers weren't overly supportive, weren't that into it, but it was certainly an interesting approach. There was one of the the member for Orange, Phil Donato, had a independent member, had a very, very interesting presentation where he spoke about housing in regional areas, but he also he referenced the New Zealand government and approaches that they've had trying to encourage young people into trades, which has been obviously, some parents find it hard to swallow that their kids might actually want to do a trade, but the New Zealand government has had a very, very successful campaign trying to encourage parents and also young people to get into trades, and we can see this in our local area where we've got a very limited supply of builders, chippies, electricians, plumbers, etc., and it would be the more the merrier, I say. But it was well worth going to that event. So, any questions or concerns, etc. Councillor Bohm.
Through you to the Director of Planning, probably, I guess, Mayor, I'm very interested in the tiny homes movement. I know that there are a number of shires, as you mentioned, that are supportive of it. I'd be very interested to know what our LEP is talking about, and is there, I'm unaware, are we restricted in the Shire for tiny homes to be allowed on existing allotments? If the Director could give us a bit of an update, it'd be useful. Thanks.
Through the General Manager to the Director.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through the General Manager. Tiny homes is an interesting concept that's certainly gaining some momentum. We haven't had any specific inquiries to my knowledge around on tiny homes in this area, but definitely if it is emerging, it's an issue that we need to keep a weather eye on. Happy to undertake some further research around the topic and explore potential opportunities and convey that research to councillors.
Thank you very much. Councillor Clements.
Yeah, look, I'd just like to note that the Director of Planning's provided us with a number of very informative updates on modular housing and the nuances of seasonal accommodation versus modular housing versus conventional development applications. It's actually unusually for governments, it's a fast-moving space at the moment, so I really would look forward to more reports. There are funds available, grants available for housing strategies, and I would encourage staff to, not direct, but encourage staff to have a look at some of those grants, because WeWar could do with a housing strategy. Okay, and I'm sure that maybe Boggabri could, maybe Narrabri could, but I know we have people camped in caravans on the river and things like that. So we would really like to see a housing strategy, and governments are funding such things. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Richardson.
Just further on the tiny homes and the modular homes, I think that goes into the I'm going to say trailer homes, the van homes, the relocatable homes that need to be permanently plumbed in to sewer and that. I think that is also another topic along the same lines. Has there been any movement that the Director knows of in legislative changes with that? Like, some courts say yes, they are transportable homes. Some court cases say no, they are not transportable.
Thank you very much. Through the General Manager to the Director.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through the General Manager again, just further to what Councillor Clements was saying, it is indeed surprisingly a fast-moving space. We haven't received any clear direction around legislative change at this time and what the landscape's going to look like, but as soon as we do receive any word, we'll communicate that to the elected body.
Thank you very much, Director. Any other comments? What's that? It is cold.
It's perfect.
Pretty good.
No, it is definitely cold. Do I have a mover for the motion? Councillor Clements and Councillor Richardson seconded. Any other comments, concern, etc.? I'll put it to them. You have a comment? I'll put it to the floor. All those in favour? Those against, it's carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Now, we have a delegates report for the, this is item 13.15, which is delegate report, minutes of the Narrabri Mine CCC held on the 13th of March 2024. Councillor Redding is a author of this particular item. Any 13.15, I'm sorry.
I've skipped one.
Oh, did I? Oh, the Laird Forest, sorry. I go back to item 13.14, which Councillor Redding was also in attendance. Do I have any comments, concerns, etc.? Who'd like to move that?
I just have a comment.
Yes, Councillor Richardson.
Just with the authors of these, when we're noting delegates' reports, the author is the delegate as per the business papers. They're actually not the author though. I thought we come to the conclusion that it would be changed. So for this one, for example, Kath Redding is not the author of the minutes.
No, she's not.
But in our business papers, it declares she is the author.
That's a good point. Thank you.
Just something moving forward, because there's a few of them and they appear every few months still.
There's a bit of a debate on this up here. We'll take that on notice, but we'll take that on notice, and it's we'll get a definitive answer for you, Councillor. Thank you. That's
In Councillor Redding's absence, I'll move the report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Clements. Seconder, Councillor Campbell. Would you like to speak to it?
Not at all. I would welcome Councillor Redding to talk to us in the future on it. Looks actually like a very interesting committee.
No worries. Thank you. I'll put it to the floor. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Put item 13.15, which is the Narrabri Mine CCC held on the 13th of March 2024. Once again, Councillor Redding was in attendance. Do we have any comments, etc.? Do I have a mover on that motion? Councillor Campbell, Councillor Clements, would you like to speak to your motion? Put it to the floor. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. We now move to the next section, which is item 14.1, which is the Wee Waa NAB building and CBD Memorial Grove and Dengar Park master plans, which we went through in a briefing not that long ago. I might call upon our director to speak to that item, just the top line, through the general manager. Thank you very much.
Through the General Manager. This was presented to councillors, about 2 weeks ago, and this master plan is just that same master plan attached, ready for public exhibition. We, the team, have, I believe it's the 15th of May, available in Wee Waa, so there'll be a drop-in session to come in and have a chat about it. If they want any changes or any ideas, go in and have a chat to the team. So we're looking forward to engaging further with the community on this plan.
Thank you very much, Director. Councillor Clements, do you have a...
I'd like to move the motion.
Like to move the motion? Okay. Do I have a seconder for that? It was all three. I don't know. I think Brett, sorry, Councillor Dickinson, I think you were first. Seconder. Councillor Clements, would you like to speak to the motion?
I would. Look, I think the work is quite excellent. Really well drawn up designs, well documented reasons for the designs. It got a trial run at the Wee Waa Chamber a week or two ago, in the midst of time. Some initial surprise at option A, option B, so people weren't expecting to see the lockdown of the building as an option. But my read of the room was that once they had a chance to look at that, the bulk of people thought, oh, that's probably a good idea. So I think that'll need a bit of a run, and certainly the people are going to be given ample opportunity to have as many goes at this as they want. I know it's not a statutory requirement for a consultative period, but we're going to vote on that today. It's good to have a nominated consultative period. Certainly, perhaps the facade of a new building will be of concern, I think, to some. I note when we put the library up, probably the biggest debate I've seen in years was over the facade, whether it was appropriate for the rest of the street, and I think that will be the case again with this. On Dangar Park, again, people had a look, thought that's good. Some were worried about cricket in terms of the changes to the park, but people very lacking in gentility pointed out to them they hadn't played cricket there in years. But I think that'll be, again, a point of discussion. But if I could say, the fact that we've got some public toilets there, the fact that we can pull long vehicles up in Dangar Park, the fact that we can direct them around to the main street, all looks pretty good. And I look forward to a great process. I know that, I guess it's Alice and her team, perhaps, will be out there, and always goes well. So thank you.
Might just as a bit of a note of clarity, I know that we certainly get a number of people asking questions like this. The question that I have for the director through the general manager is how much of this is funded and how much of it is yet to be funded?
So a master plan is a great way for us to plan out all the future projects we'd like to do. That's why community engagement is key in this, and then we can use this to go out for grant funding. In this current master plan, one of Ted's team's project is that NAB building, and we do have funding for that. The other projects we do not. I think there's a little bit of funding for the Memorial Grove, but not the full extent. So basically just think of it as the NAB building, or come up with a better name, but the NAB building is funded, and the rest is a plan for the future we'll put in for grant funds.
Thank you very much, Director. Do I have any councillors who wish to make any comments or for or against this motion? Anyone? I'll put it to the floor. Would you like closing comments?
It would be remiss of me to say that in terms of the Memorial Grove, I know it's a little bit undesigned at the moment because it hasn't been an opportunity to talk to the local RSL. And I think Dennis Lowder, I'll make mention of, he's appeared here before us to talk about this. Dennis and his wife are travelling a lot these days, so let's grab Dennis before too long. And certainly I do concur with the chair that we need to be very clear that some of this is not funded. The NAB site is funded. To some degree the Memorial Grove, perhaps the streetscaping not, and Dangar Park not, but there's only one way to do that, and that's get a master plan together and go chase the funds. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Appreciate that. I'll put this to the floor. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously, councillors. Thank you for that. So this is another item. This item here is naming of a public asset, park bench in honour of Dr. Robert Anderson. The recommendation here is that council receives and notes the report on the naming of a park bench to be installed in Selina Street open space known as Lot 1, Section 6 DP 939800, that the council names the park bench in honour of Dr. Robert or Dr. Bob Anderson. The council note that the Rotary Club of Narrabri will be responsible for the costs associated with the supply of the proposed park bench and concrete slab in accordance with council specifications. That council undertakes the installation works at the expense of the Narrabri Rotary Club. Upon completion, council retains ownership fully of the asset. Do I have a mover of that motion? Councillor Campbell? Councillor Lamont, did you have a question?
Yeah, I thought I was first, but it doesn't matter. I think I might have a declaration of interest here because Dr. Robert Anderson stitched up my face and we got busted up playing rugby league down here, and I had to wait till 6:30 at night because he was having Sunday afternoon sojourn, and I got busted up at 3:30. So
is that
I've got to remain in the room like you, Mr. Mayor.
Is that a non-significant, non-pecuniary?
It's a comment.
He
didn't do the job.
It looks pretty good to me. Councillor Campbell, you're moving the motion, are you? Councillor?
Yes.
Thank you very much. And do I have a seconder? So you've also got a non-pecuniary, right. They are. There's going to be a lot of that in this. So do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Dickinson, thank you very much. Would you like to speak to your motion, Councillor
Yeah,
Campbell?
sure. Well, I don't think Dr. Anderson delivered me. I know he delivered me. I don't remember it.
This is a good
I've seen my birth certificate. But no, this is a good thing. This is something the Rotary Club's been wanting to do, and it's very admirable of them to continue to pursue this. And they've got themselves hopefully a nice structure there in Selena Street, and I fully endorse the process.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Do I have any other comments? We've had lots of interesting comments so far. Just from my own point of view, just a thoroughly lovely man, and certainly very well respected around the community. And I think that I don't know whether there'd be a person in Narrabri Shire that wouldn't have at least, with any history, at least had some kind of interaction with Dr. Anderson. So thank you. I'll put this motion. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously. Thanks, councillors. Got item 14.3, which is the crime prevention plan. So the item here is that Narrabri Shire crime prevention plan 24 to 28 be endorsed. Just for a little bit of a top line on that, I'm just going to get the director through the general manager just to give us a few words.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through the General Manager, Council's had the benefit of a number of reports on this topic and also workshops for the body of work that's been delivered by the UNE Centre for Rural Criminology. Further to the recent council meeting, the report was placed on public exhibition. We received no responses in relation to that public exhibition period. I will also endeavour to answer part of the earlier question around CCTV for Wee Waa. I have that sits within Mr. Harrington's directorate. However, I have recently chatted with the IT manager, who advises me that the system requires complete review and potentially reinstallation, as it is connected to a private premises. So council would need to provide a budgetary allocation or seek grants for that purpose. So happy to take any questions.
Any questions, concerns, comments? Do I have a mover for that motion? Oh, sorry, you had a...
Just a question, I'm sure others will.
Do I have a mover on that motion? Councillor Richardson. Councillor Dickinson, thank you very much. Councillor Richardson, would you like to speak to your motion?
As previously stated, I think this is one of the best plans that we have collaborated with on an external agency with. I do think, thank UNE for their involvement, the Crime Prevention Committee as well, and I do endorse this.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Any other comments about this plan? Councillor Clements.
I will pick up that although it's for the Narrabri Shire, at least some of the stats are for Narrabri itself, not for the Shire. And I think it's a little disappointing that we don't have stats for Wee Waa and Boggabri, which are big enough centres to actually pick up in Boxars. Any crime prevention plan for the Shire should have data for the major towns.
Is it worth trying to comment on that? Thank you very much, Councillor Clements. Any other comments? I'll put it to the floor. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We now move to item 16.1. 16.1. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, everyone, and it's not an approaching train. Minutes of the Sale Yard Advisory Committee meeting held on the 27th of May 2019. This recommendation here is that the minutes of the Sale Yard Advisory Committee meeting held on the 27th of May 2019 be received and the recommendations and actions therein be adopted.
I'll make it.
Councillor Richardson is got her light on.
I'm not here.
I'd like to make a comment.
Would you like to?
Yeah.
Okay, you can make it.
This may be in the director's top line if they're doing one. What was the hold up from 2019 to 2024?
Excellent. I'll put that through the General Manager to the Director, who can give us an overall top line on this particular item. Thank you.
Thank you, through the GM. My understanding, whilst not being in the chair or in the Shire during that time, my understanding was that COVID and lack of sales, and therefore there were no meetings held between 2019 and last year. It got reconvened last year.
Would you like to ask a question, perhaps? Yes. Okay. Would you like to move the motion, or who wants to move the motion? Move the motion. Who wants to move the motion? Councillor Bowen, seconder. Councillor Campbell. Councillor Bowen.
Well, thank you. I'll get the director through you to make some additional comments, but in relation to sale yards, they are a very dying piece of infrastructure. So my question, I guess, then to the director is, is there a plan going forward as opposed to adopting this particular motion? That to me seems to be, we need to provide some direction from this meeting rather than just receive very, very, very old minutes, which are very difficult to endorse. They can be received and noted, but to adopt them, I think, is a bit beyond the remit of what we could be expected to do. You're the mover of the motion, but the one thing that perhaps you could do is just note the minutes rather than anything else. And maybe note and receive them, given that you're...
I've got a question.
Councillor Clements.
It's a real question. Why wouldn't the Sale Yards Advisory Committee approve their minutes and then send us a report? That's normally what happens with committees. Why would council itself endorse of a committee that, it's a committee of council, wouldn't they just endorse their own minutes and send us a report? It's what the Floodplain Management Committee does.
It's more like, it's basically noting the report.
Yep.
My concern is the second action.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
The whole thing. There are no actions because there's nothing happening out there.
But this says that there's some workplace health stuff that we should have.
Can we just pull it? Yeah, we'll pull it and deal with it next time.
We might.
Can I?
Councillor Campbell.
Possibly it's because some of those things within that document, within those minutes, have already happened.
Yes.
And council's already bought and paid for them, I'd say. So there's nothing more there that can be done. The Sale Yards Committee was one that was correct me if I'm wrong in saying that, but Sale Yards Committee was always one hard to wrangle, and you didn't have them very often. I think I participated in maybe two. So maybe that was a situation with that. But I think we just need to sort of have a bit of a look at it a bit further before we sign up on.
I actually think it's just terminate that sentence at received.
Yeah, just get rid of everything from and onwards.
Yeah.
Is Are you happy with that? Can we just receive it?
I think we receive and note that report because I think we need to do both. We need to do both because just the receiving of it is the important thing. Whether it needs another motion there or another note there that then the director would then report back on the current status of the sale yards for future discussion, and maybe through the GM you might suggest some form of words for that.
Through the chair, I actually feel if the committee does meet again, it will approve its previous minutes and it will make recommendations to council that council can either adopt or not. So I think if we leave it at received, the issue is resolved, and then if the committee meets again, we'll be back on an even keel, so to speak.
Councillor Richardson.
Happy for that change to be made, as there is a few actions in there that would need funding. Just perhaps, I think it was around this time last year, we actually did a briefing on the sale yards, and perhaps it's time to do another one, the yearly
Good. Yeah.
sale yard.
Good idea. Yep. Thank you.
As I'm sure it's going to come up in our budgetary questioning at our next week briefing and extraordinary meeting.
Ted's got the time.
So the motion's amended.
So the motion as amended that the minutes of the Sale Yard Advisory Committee meeting held on the 27th of May 2019 be received and noted. I think the mover wanted, and received and noted. Did you want noted in there?
Do you want my closing this little
Yes.
item here?
Can we just receive it, please? Because noting it says that we're taking some responsibility. I don't want to do that. I want to lead in this committee sometime and also
Be received is the words.
This is fine.
Yes. So in closing, I should also note, or for the benefit of other councillors, is that a number of shires are currently looking very closely at closing them. The closest one to here is Moree,
Of course.
and it's just about gone. So this is the direction we're taking, and I would endorse what Councillor Richardson said, is probably time to have a really close look at this on for our infrastructure delivery and ownership.
Okay. Thank you very much. There being no further debate on this item, I'll put this to the floor. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We've now arrived at the confidential closed council section of the meeting. The recommendation here is that council moves into closed, public excluded meeting of council, and that the press and members of the public be asked to leave the room while council considers the following items: 17.1 business paper and unconfirmed minutes of the ARIC committee, and this is considered confidential under section 10A2, subsection F of the Local Government Act, and the council is satisfied that discussion of this matter in an open meeting would, on balance, be contrary to the public interest, as it deals with details of systems and or arrangements that have been implemented to protect council, councillors, staff and council property. And the second one is item 17.2, National Volunteer 2024 Volunteer of the Year nomination. This matter is considered confidential under section 10A2A of the Local Government Act, and the council is satisfied that discussion of this matter in an open meeting would, on balance, be contrary to the public interest, as it deals with personnel matters concerning particular individuals other than councillors. Do I have a mover on that motion? That's Councillor Dickinson, seconded by Councillor Clements. Put to the floor. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried. We're in closed, everyone. Honestly, I'd like to move a motion. I'd like to put it that we move out of closed. Do I have a mover? Councillor Clements, seconded by Councillor Bohm. All those in favour, we move out of closed. Carried unanimously, thank you. Now, we're back in, we're out of closed, and I'd like to call upon the General Manager to report on the proceedings of the closed session. We're out of closed at 3:47. If the GM could just briefly report on the findings of the closed.
Okay, so we're now out of closed. Just for confirmation that business paper 17.1, that council note the business papers and unconfirmed minutes of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee meeting held on the 18th of March 2024, that council endorse for the Audit and Risk Improvement Committee business paper to be made available to councillors and accessed within council's information system due to the large amount of pages contained in the files. The second resolution that was passed, 17.2, that council determined nominee 3 as the recipient of Narrabri Shire Volunteer of the Year 2024, and that council keep the outcome confidential until the winner is announced at the Narrabri Volunteer Morning Tea to be held on Friday the 24th of May 2024 at the Narrabri RSL.
Thank you very much, councillors. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you at the next meeting. We've obviously got a briefing coming up. Good luck for Brett. Brett's going away. He won't be at the next one. Will you be at the next one? You will be back, right? No,
Next week.
yes, that's right. We do have a meeting on Monday, everyone. Extraordinary meeting and a briefing on Monday.
Yes, yes.
Yep. 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock?
I'm sure it's 2 o'clock. Yeah.
2 o'clock? No worries. Extraordinary. I don't think that meeting will last too long anyway. I don't think so. No. Yeah. All right. Thanks, councillors. Meeting's closed at 4:49. 3:49. 3:49.
My question is,